in this scene, it finally becomes obvious that I'm a prisoner in my own brain, if you hadn't figured that out already from the scenes before. And the synapses and the slashing of the synapses in particular, that was very much inspired by a Futurama episode called Parasites Lost, which is season 3, episode 4. And I will, if you haven't seen it or if you want to recheck it again, I will load up a short recap of that on my other YouTube channel that I have yet to create. But when I've done that, I will put a link somewhere here, so you can have a look at that again. And I want to show you how these synapses were done in After Effects. Okay, in this project I have by far the most layers I ever had in an After Effects project. 56 overall. And these are, of course, the lights at the top, then all these synapse layers, which are the red ones, these knots or ganglions, I guess, which are the blue ones. And here the footage layers, the camera, the null object, and a lot of background layers, which are the walls we already had, and on top of these walls, these brain layers and some extra brain layers for this negative effect at the beginning. Alright, 56 layers, and I really got really confused while working in this project, especially when I was looking for one particular synapse in this whole chaos. Okay, now I want to show you how these synapses are built. So I take this one now, which should be this synapse, number 1. I show the effects, and I will turn off the effects for now. And double click on the layer, so you see it's basically just a white shape at the beginning. Then we have it here, this white shape. We first use this Bezier warp filter on it, which you find in Effect Distort Bezier warp. And what this one does is really, if you click on it, you get these handles and you can really make the craziest forms with it and shape your layer however you want it. Torpedo. So you just got to play around with these handles. Okay, when you got that done, I next put in the fractal noise. And this fractal noise is also keyframed. The evolution property of this fractal noise is keyframed, and it is shifting from between 5 and 355. So it makes this evolution makes this, I have to single this layer out here so you see that better. It really makes this glowing effect on that. Next we put in the color with the hue and saturation filter. It shows this color. Not much to explain here. And a further glow with this glow filter to make the glow a little bit crazier and more shiny. And it also has a keyframed property, which is this color phase here, which is also fluctuating from 1 to 90 throughout the whole scene. And this is how all these synapses are built up. Okay, we are back. And these knots are built up pretty much the same way, but just with the hue effect, with the hue filter, and with the glow filter with the color phase shifting. They are a little bit less complicated because we don't have to warp them. So that is basically how these parts were done. Now, in the beginning, the synapses start shooting out from this medulla oblongata, and this is done by a mask shape, by a keyframed mask path. And if I hit M here, you see the mask path that is shifting. But what is weird is, you see the mask should reveal the whole thing already, but it's not. So why is that? This is because of the Bezier warp filter. If I turn that off, you see that then the mask fits again at this point. So it's really this warp filter here that makes the keyframing of the mask so tough to handle, because what you see on the screen is not really what you would expect. And all this had to be done for 18 different synapses, so that was some work again, but it really worked out quite nicely. Now one more scene I want to show here is when I, well, where is it? When I produce the X from behind my back, which doesn't seem that spectacular to begin with, but we will single out that layer and see what we did there on this one. And now if I turn off the key light and if I deactivate the mask, you'll see, hey, there is my drummer Tim here, and he's reaching in the X from behind my back with some cardboard in front of the X at this point, and with a green suit on. And so he reaches it in, I grab behind my back, and there I have the X. So this is what was done there. And put the key light back on, the mask back on. And that was pretty much this scene. Now, I would show you the slashing of the synapses, but this is actually in the next project. I had to cut the projects here. And we don't need to see that. So let's move on to the next scene. Okay, in this scene we are approaching the bridge of the song, and in music traditionally the bridge is the introduction of another theme or another mood of the song. So I also brought in a new setting in the video, which is this throne room. And I can simply do this because I'm in my own brain and I can pretty much do what I want in there. And after all, these are just figments of my imagination. Now, the technique I used is pretty much the same technique that I already used in the first scene with 360, which is just I'm moving relatively to the camera, and the camera, I move the camera in After Effects later on. Just the first time it was a 360, this time it's a 180. But still it was much harder to do because I could not turn on my own feet since I was kneeling down, and I had to ask my friends to help me here. And what we did was I had a board from a table and put some green paper on it, and luckily there were some side struts below the board that the board could rest on, and then we just put in some tennis balls to make the rolling movement a little bit better. And yeah, they just turned me and it worked pretty well, but I just had problems with the continuity again. Because the pose at the beginning was not right and I was not raising myself up enough at the end, and so I wanted to reshoot it. Then the second time it was just poorly executed because I could not mask out my bandmate properly, and so I could not use these shots. So the third time I asked my longtime neighbors, and they brought two planned trolleys, or what you call these, and we put these beneath the board, so the movement of the board went pretty well, and also the poses at the beginning and at the end were better this time. Not perfect again for the continuity, but at some point I just have to subdue this compulsion for perfection in the continuity, because at some point this just becomes sick. And so I went with these shots, And now the first time I released the video, I had the picture of the throne room just flip in like the page of a book, and I never really was content with this. So now in the process of re-recording the guitars and remixing the whole song, which we're doing right now, I got back into the scene again, and I really tried to arrange all the different objects of the throne room, the curtains, the pillars, the stage, the throne, and all the other stuff in the background. All of these on separate layers, so that I could really become much more part of the room, really be inside the room rather than just sit in front of a picture of this room. And I think that works pretty well now. In my kingdom I'm alone. The throne room, man, I'm so glad it turned out the way it turned out, because at the beginning I did not think it would look like this in the end. Now, what I did was I first looked up some pictures on the internet, and there was one particular image that I really liked of an artist called Fish Spawn. And I first tried to go into the direction of this image, and even did some test shots with the band and this image as a background. But I then quickly realized I could not have the drum set behind me like in a classic rock band setup, and I wanted to have it in front of me. So I started a completely new design with this idea, and I pretty much got the whole structure right. I got the textures, I got the pedestal, I got the curtains and everything, but somehow the image just looked lifeless. So I'm not a Photoshop expert really, so I gave this one to a colleague of mine from work who's a designer, and he really turned this image around. He put in the details, he put in the lighting, he did the textures for the pillars, which I had problem doing, and he really turned this image into this great image that it has become. And I have to say I'm really thankful for that, because normally I don't get help. I do pretty much everything on my own. But I know if I had done this throne room completely alone, it would not have looked as good as it really looks now. And so again, I'm really thankful for that.